The Vegas Golden Knights have had kind of a loud offseason so far, and although they haven't had a draft pick this year in the first round, they do still find a way to make a big splash in the offseason, from trades to re-signing pieces, and just a lot of very controversial things have been occurring with the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's what I'm going to be covering in this video right now. We're going to be covering the massive trade, a lot of the side signings, and the massive signing that occurred because of the big trade. And if this is your first time on the channel, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, give me a like, and if you enjoy this channel, why not subscribe? But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's get right into this. We're going to be reacting to everything that's transpired for the Vegas Golden Knights in this offseason, during this free agency madness that has transpired. And I'm not going to be covering the draft and all the undrafted free agents and everything that kind of occurred there. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that, but it's just not as important or as immediately impactful as everything else that has been going on. So let's start with something that isn't the earliest thing that happened this offseason, but something that definitely had the biggest impact and the most reactions. And that was a massive trade that needed to occur because of the cap situation the Vegas Golden Knights were in. And what that trade was Max Pacioretty and Dylan Coghlan were traded to the Carolina Hurricanes for future considerations. And although future considerations can be a controversial topic and a topic that not a lot of people understand, what this could mean is sometime down the road, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes will come to a decision on what the trade will include, and that could include trading of draft picks, just a straight-up late-round draft pick, a player. It all kind of depends on how good the player does for the Carolina Hurricanes. So not much to cover there, but let's cover the actual players themselves. Now, first up, Max Pacioretty. Now, he was the lead goal scorer per game last year and has been one of the top goal scorers every single year for the Vegas Golden Knights as long as he has been here, and just a really, really important piece for this roster as time has went on. He played only 39 games last year, though. We do need to take into consideration that, and he only played 48 the year prior to that, so his games have been going down progressively as he ages, and not only as he's aging, he is already 33 years old, definitely an aging vet, definitely seeing less time on the ice because of his injuries, not because of his play, but the less time you have on ice because of injuries also means that you're not going to be able to show how much you're worth, how much you're able to do for the roster. And I guess I see why Max Pacioretty was the guy that was traded over some of these other options here. I've seen a lot of people say, hey, why not William Karlsson? Why not Wild Bill? And I just see, because he's a younger piece, because he's shown that, he can still be an immediate factor on this team, and he's consistently playing. I think that was a big factor in why Max Pacioretty was moved on and not William Karlsson. And I will say I like Wild Bill a little bit more, and that was a big reason because of year one. But Max Pacioretty moves on. Now, Dylan Coghlan, on the other hand, is a 24-year-old, a young defenseman. Now, if you don't know, 24, 23 is about when you actually get into the league, because you get drafted before you go to college, you go through college, then you go into the CHL or whatever kind of division you go in underneath the NHL, and then you enter the NHL, the big leagues. And Dylan Coghlan is 24. I think he was only played a couple years in the league, and he had 13 points last year in 59 games. So nothing too extraordinarily impressive. He was a defenseman, if I remember correctly. And although you don't expect them to score a lot, this team already has quite a bit of very useful, very good defensive talent. And I think you don't really have to keep Dylan Coghlan to be a solid roster on that defense side of things. So I don't think Dylan Coghlan moving on is that big of a hit for this team. Now, some other important factors in this. The trade frees up $7 million in cap space, which is huge, and this, along with a couple other things that occurred during this offseason, have allowed more space. And I just realized that I completely left out the first trade of the year, which was, I don't want to mess up the name because I always mix up the two names. Was it Dodonov? Okay, so we're back. You guys won't even notice, but because it'll be 1 second for you guys. But I had to pause real quick there just to gather as I realized that I missed a trade. And now we have that set. I have this over here. We're going to talk about that in a second here. But this trade, the Max Pacioretty and Dylan Coughlin to the Hurricanes, frees up $7 million. And honestly, a lot of people were really saying that this trade was just terrible because you're only getting future considerations in return. But we also got to realize that, honestly, I'm kind of surprised that the Vegas Golden Knights didn't have to give up more. When you're over the tax, it's really, really hard for other teams to get exactly what your player's worth is from other teams. So even though Max Pacioretty is a really, really good goal scorer, and when he's healthy, he can be one of the top guys on your team, because Vegas Golden Knights is so far over the cap, teams know that they can get a little bit, more for the other player with giving less. So honestly, I'm kind of surprised that a draft pick from Vegas wasn't included in this. And I'd say it's a very good thing that it was only Max Pacioretty and Dylan Coughlin for future considerations, and maybe future considerations end up being a good thing. Now, the other trade that I kind of completely forgot about because it happened so much earlier in the offseason was Evangelii Dadonov was traded for Shea Weber, and Shea Weber is injured. He has a couple years left on his thing, and although he would push Vegas over the cap because of the injuries and how LTIR works, he will immediately be put on the injury reserve, won't count towards the cap at all. He'll be on that the entire season, so that will be no worries at all. Dadonov was moved for Shea Weber. I just kind of wanted to bring that back up because I didn't want to completely lapse over it with how kind of important it was, especially with opening up a cap. I think these two trades combined opened up like $14 million in cap space, which is much, much needed. Why was that much needed? As we all know, which happened the following day after the big trade for Max Pacioretty, was Riley Smith re-signing. Now, you bring back one of the original misfits, which is something I really, really miss from the first-year team. But he does a really team-friendly deal with $5 million annually over a 3-year time period. That's a really, really team-friendly deal, especially for what he can bring to this team. He's a top line or second line on a lot of teams, and he's a very, very consistent person on this current roster. Now, he only did play 56 games last year, which is not incredible out of 82 games. You will like to see that improve, but he did still have 38 points, so he's not too far off of that 1 point per game range. I think that's about 0.7, so pretty decent amount of points per game there. An original misfit, and he takes the team-friendly deal, and I know I said this a couple times, but that is so important, especially for a team that is in a bad cap situation. And if you tuned in for his press conference, for him re-signing, he did say that his only thing that he was going to do during this free agency was sign with Vegas. I believe he said that he didn't even talk to any other teams because he just felt wrong doing that. So he just re-signed with Vegas as he planned in the beginning. And I'm very happy to see that not only team-friendly deal, but he's also going to continue that, something that I think the team misses a lot is people staying with the team long term, and we have that with Riley Smith, we have that with William Karlsson, and we're starting to see more people stay with the team for longer periods of time. Also, not only that, but he is a key player in this franchise history. He's third all-time in goals for this organization. I think he's top 5 in points. He is definitely a key contributor to this team long term, and most likely next year he'll be a key contributor again. Now, some other transactions that did transpire as time has went on that we definitely need to cover. First up, we have Brett Howden that was re-signed for $1.5 million for 1 year. And although I don't like the idea of it only being 1 year, I think what's likely going to happen is they sign him for 1 year, they discuss it throughout the season to get him on that long-term extension, figure out how their cap's going to work, and just kind of resolve it later. I think Brett Howden, as a young guy, 24 years old, can definitely bring a lot to this team. He had 20 points last year, and although that doesn't seem like a lot, he was 23% shooting. So a fourth of his shots were going in net, which is really, really good, and I think he has a lot of talent behind him, and I think with how this roster is starting to be built, although it's not fully into the right space to be completed, I think he's going to add a lot to this roster long term if they can get him back after this 1 year deal. But even on this 1 year deal, if you're getting 20 points out of him on 23% shooting, that's a really, really good numbers there, especially when you have these guys that can score on your team already, including Riley Smith, including William Karlsson when he's healthy, Jack Eichel when he's healthy. A lot of pieces here can score. Having Brett Howden there as well that can get you 20 points in the season. Hopefully more because he's still a young guy, and I think this was his best season. His rookie year, he had 23 points, but this is like his 5th year I think he's going on. His first year with Vegas, he gets 20 points for the first time since his rookie year, and all around I think when he was on the ice, it was his best looking year overall. Another re-signing we had here was Jonas Rondbjerg, and I probably butchered his name there, but he definitely became a fan favorite, at least for me, as the season went on. Like almost immediately he was making really early impacts. He signs a 3-year deal with average of $766,000 a year, which I believe is the minimum, especially for a young guy. He is young, like I said, 23 years old. Got a lot of younger pieces starting to make their way into here, and I expect to see that further with Brendan Bryson coming into the fold. There's some goalies that I could see possibly sneaking in here if injuries continue with Robin Lehner, and there's a couple other pieces on that forward and defenseman position that I expect to bring in young guys. But for Jonas Rondbjerg, he did only have 6 points, but it was in 30 games, and he looked pretty effective when he was on the ice. He still played I think a good portion of the season with Henderson, and he looked good when he was with the team. But I do like the idea of him being here on this actual Vegas roster, especially on that lower tier lines. He can add that ability to go get points and be effective passing and scoring. Although he's not incredible at scoring, he does look pretty solid at it. And again, he didn't have a ton of assists, but when he was able to move the puck fluently, even if it didn't lead to an assist, it looked very, very good. Now, the last couple pieces here for transactions, we have Sheldon Rampell, Byron Froesi. I'm so bad with names, guys. I let it be known every single time I make an annotation here, hey, figure out how to say this guy's names before you start the video. I don't. I never remember to. But we have Byron Froesi and Michael Hutchinson. That's the couple last pieces here, and I think there was a couple other pieces that were signed to this team, but likely just going to be a part of the Henderson Silver Knights organization, the lower part of the Golden Knights team. Now, although that is everything that's kind of transpired so far, I think it's probably good that we have a little conversation of what can occur from this point on. Now, a big piece here is the potential for William Karlsson to get traded. And although I don't think it needs to happen, and I am a big William Karlsson fan, I could still see it occurring. Not only does it add more cap flexibility in the years coming, but he hasn't been his year one capability. His first year with Vegas Golden Knights, he hasn't hit that potential again ever since that first year. So I could see the potential of moving on from a guy like Wild Bill. There's a couple other options here. Let it be known real quick, you're not trading Mark Stone. I don't know why I keep seeing that. Mark Stone is an integral piece to this team, both offensively and defensively. And although he's not incredibly fast enough to keep up with Colorado, he doesn't need to be. He's smart. He knows how to cut corners and take good angles so that he doesn't have to be as fast just to cause a thing. When he's on the ice, you got to remember, he was just an all-star. You don't have to be incredibly fast. And this is a direct comment in regards to a conversation I was having with a fellow fan earlier. But this Mark Stone should not be traded under any circumstance. He's a key piece to this offense. Him with Jack Eichel, I think, will be an incredible duo once things get rolling, once everyone is healthy. Now, a couple other things that can occur here. I don't expect any other big trades unless it's for a guy like William Karlsson or Robin Lehner, potentially. And I will say I'm a big fan of Robin Lehner, but from what I've been hearing, both Robin Lehner and Laurent Brossoit potentially might not be healthy before the start of the season. And although I don't fully understand how trades work when players are injured in the NHL, as sometimes I see it's allowed and sometimes I see it's not, for example, Shea Weber, but I could potentially see Robin Lehner moved on. And although the pairing of Robin Lehner and Logan Thompson, price-wise, is one of the cheapest good pairings in the league, there is potential, especially with some of these younger guys we're seeing on this Henderson team, could potentially be brought up if Leonard's not being healthy, and Robin Lehner could move. Now, if this does occur, I see this more likely to happen at the trade deadline than before the season ends. Let that be known. But I still think there is potential that we don't see Robin Lehner, the Panda, with this team long term, especially with the fact that the owner wanted to keep Fleury, and it was Pete DeBoer that wanted Leonard on the team, and that's why Fleury was moved on. So I could see the possibility, especially with new coaching staffs and everything occurring here, that Robin Leonard potentially gets moved on, especially with his injury concerns as time goes on. So we have Wild Bill, William Karlsson, and the Panda in Robin Leonard that could potentially get traded. Although I think for both of them, it's more likely at the trade deadline halfway through the season than before the season actually starts. Now, for these younger guys, again, I think a lot of these guys are going to take a step up, whether it's right away at the beginning of the season, going into the Golden Knights roster. I'm not sure, but I definitely think that Brendan Bryson is going to, at bare minimum, play 30 games on the Vegas Golden Knights roster this next year, and I think he'll do very, very good, and I'm excited. I likely, honestly, if he comes out and he's firing and he looks really, really good, I might buy a jersey. Let it be known, I am a huge Vegas Golden Knights fan, but with everything that's been occurring, I've been a little bit scared to buy jerseys for this team. For every other team, I have quite a bit of jersey, especially the Chargers. If you don't know, I'm a big Chargers fan. That's a LaDainian Tomlinson Pro Bowl jersey. But I'm a huge Chargers fan. I have like 10 jerseys for that team. And the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm just worried to buy jerseys because all I have right now is William Karlsson, who potentially gets traded soon, and I have Marc-Andre Fleury, who just got traded. Now, these guys are two of my favorite pieces, but I'm just worried about buying new pieces. And although this is a little bit of tangent here, I do want to buy Mark Stone, and I think Brendan Bryson is probably the next guy on my list, especially if he makes an immediate impact on this roster, which I expect him to do. Now, there are some other young guys here that I could see taking that next step being important, not only on this Henderson roster, but also on the Golden Knights roster. For example, Brett Howden. I could see him taking a step up, and well as Jonas Ronbjörg. Now, let it be known, I'm probably butchering some of these names. But I think the biggest potential, and I'm not even going to try the names, nor am I going to point anyone out because there's quite a bit of options there, is that a Vegas Golden Knights / Henderson Silver Knights goalie is brought up. Just the same way we saw Logan Thompson last year, who stepped up and looked very, very good. I expect something very similar to happen this year. Someone from Henderson is going to get brought up and make an immediate impact, especially with Robin Lehner and Laurent Brossoit being injured for potentially the start of the season, which if you're going to miss the start of the season, if you're not going to be starting game one, you're likely going to be missing at least like 5-10 games, and you're not going to throw Logan Thompson out there for 5 games in a row at the start of the season. The only reason why we saw that last year was because it was the end of the year, and you needed to win those games to make the playoff push. But that's about it. That's what has all transpired so far for the Vegas Golden Knights in this offseason, as well as what I expect to occur for the remainder of the offseason, as well as what potentially could occur when the season actually starts. So, what do you guys think? Do you hate these trades? Do you think this was a good trade? Re-signing Riley Smith, good option, bad option? Is there someone else that I about said the Bulls, the Vegas Golden Knights should target in free agency with the remainder money that they might have? Is there another trade that you think should happen? And who do you think is going to take that step up? Because I likely will have a video on who do I think is going to take a step up for the Vegas Golden Knights. When that video is going to come out, I'm not quite sure. I'm hoping that things are going to settle down before I start pumping out content for Vegas. But if you enjoyed this video, give me a like. If you enjoy the channel and you enjoy daily content, because I promise you we're going to be getting back into that. A lot of things have been happening. Pretty sure I got a concussion. Brain was really wonky. That happened. I was traveling. News was low. Really, really rocky last month, but we're going to get right back into things. Right before that, we're doing daily content. We're getting right back into it at least 5 times a week. So if you enjoy daily content, why not subscribe? Seriously, it means a lot to me, and I'm trying to reach 1,000 before the end of the year. At least. No, I'm not even going to say at least. I'm trying to reach 1,000 before the end of the year, so I can't do that without your guys' help. But as always, I hope it taught you something today. Hope it made you smile. Hope it made you laugh. That something's really important to me. Affects someone else's day in a great way, because every single day can be a great day if we all just put in the effort. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.
But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that